Doing good. How about yourself?
I'm good. Are you managing to stay sane during this quarantine stuff?
Yeah, yeah, trying.
Is it that bad where you are?
No, it's pretty. Nobody really cares around here, even though they're supposed to be staying home. They're not, But it's okay. I think I'm not gonna say what I'm thinking. It's okay here. Let's just put it that way.
No, yeah. It's the same over here in Arizona. We're lucky to not have it as bad, but people are just staying home. Some people aren't even doing that, but we don't have it as bad as New York or California, thankfully.
Right. Yeah.
So, who are just to start things off? What bands or players are some of your major influences on your playing?
Definitely the first two that come to mind would be Black Sabbath and Celtic Frost.
Of course.
Oh man, Judas Priest, Dark Throne. The list can I could sit here for 2 hours and just
Yeah.
spout off bands that I feel are influential and that have amazing guitar players that I think, that just, inspire me. But stuff like that, I don't really delve too far away from metal in general. You know what I'm saying? So basically, if it's good metal, it'll probably inspire me.
Oh yeah, well, we all know metal is just an endless surplus of amazing playing and talent.
I agree with you 100%.
And so obviously, a lot of people know you for guitarist of Acid Bath, New Orleans band. Why do you think it is that bands like Acid Bath, or considered sort of underground at the time, after that's done and over with, sort of blow up and get more mainstream attention?
Well, I mean, when those bands were coming out, like you were saying, like I God and Crowbar and Asabath, all the New Orleans bands, and I mean other bands that were kind of doing the similar style too as well, like Buzz Oven and Sleep, and there was a couple of other bands that were there. They're escaping me right now. At that time, there wasn't a really big scene for that kind of music. At that time, what was really popular was either like new metal or straight up brutal death metal. Like I remember back then, like Cannibal Corpse. That's when Cannibal Corpse was in that Ace Ventura movie, and then all of a sudden, death metal is humongous. And back then, the attitude that the fans took, I would say, it's like they were like into death metal. They were into death metal and nothing else. You know what I'm saying? The fans weren't very open minded back then, and I think it was just a matter of wrong place at the wrong time. Then all of a sudden, like you said, the shit got popular. It's very strange how that happened,
Yeah.
but that's the way that I think of it. That that's what happened with that band. It's just being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that with Down releasing the record NOLA, that kind of shed some light on the New Orleans kind of sludge.
Absolutely. I mean, even when Pantera took out Crowbar and I God, on tour with them, on like full blown arena tours, and I think that helped a lot, as well as far as exposing the New Orleans bands.
Yeah.
But Acid Bath never really got that opportunity, but I think that had a lot to do with it, as far as drawing attention towards this scene.
Yeah, for sure. And which New Orleans band would you consider, if you had one, to be your favorite?
Oh man, that's hard. There's a lot of great bands around here. There were a lot of great bands from back in the day that no longer exist. But man, what would be my favorite New Orleans band, like right now, or just in general?
Whatever, in the past or current or whenever.
Well, I mean, I've been fans of all of them. I've always been a big fan of Crowbar. I've always been a big fan of I Hate God. And there's other, there's a lot of other bands that I'm fans of that a lot of people don't really bring up, like Graveyard Rodeo, and Soylent Green. I mean, I'm just all of them. I can't pick just one. I like them all for specific reasons.
Yeah, for sure. And with playing with you're playing with Goatwhore now. You're would you consider it black metal?
I mean, when we started, I would definitely say that we were leaning towards that kind of sound.
Hmm.
But I mean, nowadays I would just kind of call us black metal influenced. I really wouldn't call us straight on black metal. I mean, there's not a lot of black metal bands nowadays that I would even call straight on black metal anymore. My definition of black metal, to be honest with you, doesn't. I have a different vision than everybody else, I guess, when it comes to black metal. As far as Goatwhore being black metal, I would definitely consider us being influenced by black metal, especially how our sound has evolved from the beginning to where it is now.
Hmm.
But as far as being straight on black metal, I never really considered us to be a straight full just black metal band.
Yeah, because I mean, listening to the records over the years, you hear more of that Venom and Celtic Frost black metal sound more than say like Dark Throne and Mayhem and bands like that. So I mean, you hear those flavors of kind of thrash and other subgenres, as you'd say, in it. So I think that really kind of sets it aside from typical black metal bands.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what that's what I feel a lot of these newer black metal bands are kind of overlooking where black metal was created from. Which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, evolving and stuff. But, to me, in my opinion, it's just black metal should be like a chainsaw hitting you in the face rather than slapping someone in the face with a handkerchief. I mean, don't get me started on this.
And I mean, I know you're playing ESP guitars, obviously, but what kind of other gear are you using?
Like amp wise and stuff.
Yeah, just whatever you feel free to talk about.
I'm basically all I use is ESP guitars right now. I mean, I collect guitars and I have a lot of different brand names, but it's not anything that I would really use on stage and anything. It's just stuff that I have as a collector, guitars that I found at a good price that I thought were cool. And right now I am currently I'm torn in between. I'm using Randall VMAX heads, and I recently got an Omega Iridium, and I think they changed the name of the head to the Granifier, and that thing is pretty monstrous.
Yeah, I heard it in one of your Instagram clips, and it was just sounding just absolutely beastly.
Yeah, and that was at a low volume. Last
Yeah.
night I finally got to really crank it up at a Goatwhore practice, and those amps, they move a lot of air. Let's put it that way. They're very wide sounding. Like I had the head run through, like normally I run 2 Randall full stacks, like 4 cabinets and 2 heads. And this Omega head I had just running through 2 cabinets, just 1 head and 2 cabinets, and it sounded just as big as the 4 cabinets.
That's awesome.
That was pretty impressive.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were using not those Randalls you were talking about, but you were using the RGs back in the Acid Bath days.
Yes. Yep. I was using the RG 100 ES.
Yeah.
I still have that amp, which is insane that it still works after all the hell it's been through, but it still works and it still sounds the same. But I've got it. It's back there there's a big stack of amps back there. It's right back there.
Yeah, I mean, solid states usually get a pretty bad rap, but Randall RG100 is sort of like a legendary amp. Of course,
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the solid state people that dog out a lot of the solid state stuff are like the older like crate stuff and all that, where they didn't really fine tune it to make it sound like a tube amp, to where like the Randall, like the one we were talking about, the Randall RG100 ES, when they made that head, they were trying to model it after like an old Marshall head.
Mhm.
So that's why it doesn't really sound like a solid state head. It sounds like a tube head, but it's some kind of magic that Randall did with the power amp and the preamp to where it reacts like a tube amp. So
No,
it's pretty crazy.
I used to have this Randall head. I think it was an RH 100 or 300 or something. It was a weird amp. They only made a few of them, but the thing was massive and it was solid state like the RGs. But that thing had I mean, I think I threw like a weird like a metal zone in front of it or something. And it was just huge sounding.
Yeah, yeah. You have to always those old Randalls. You have to put something in front of them. Well,
Yeah,
even if you're using the dirty channel or the clean channel, you have to put something in front because they're so dry on the attack that you just need a little bit extra something, there.
well, that's what I always liked about them. They had so much low end for a solid state
Oh yeah,
sound, which was usually solid states have that brittle kind of crispy tone that's not really that great.
right.
But yeah, that low end was just insane. And if I'm correct, you guys in ESP are working on a production model like an LTD signature.
Yes, but it's right now it's only going to be limited to 30 models,
Oh wow.
and we're going to be releasing it exclusively through Chandro Guitars. So Chandro Guitars is a store. I think they're in Wisconsin somewhere, I want to say. I've never been to the store, but I'm looking for an excuse to go because the stock that he has in his store is just out of this world. But he actually, the guy Randall that owns Chandro, contacted me because he wanted to he's getting a custom, like an ESP custom shop one of modeled off of one of my guitars. And he announced that, it's legit. He's getting the custom shop replica of one of my guitars. Then everybody was like, well, I can't afford to spend the money on a custom shop because they do get a little pricey. And so he brought up the idea with me to possibly doing like an LTD version based on the custom shop that he's getting. It's not going to be an exact replica of that one, but it's going to be based upon it. It's going to be pretty damn close. Yeah. So we contacted ESP and they were totally into it. So we're going to do the first 30 is going to be sold through him. And if those sell fast, then there's a possibility that ESP might put it in a production model. But we're going to change a few little bitty things from the first 30 that we make because I want to make those just special. You know what I'm saying? Compared to like if the ESP one goes into production as a full line guitar that you could get like a Sweetwater or whatever, it's going to be very, very similar to the guitar, but it's just going to be small, minute changes, like, aesthetically. Essentially, it's going to be the same guitar you're going to play. It just might have a different inlay or something on it,
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because I mean, if you go on any ESP YouTube video that features you or Goatwhore, I mean, there's just a million comments saying when is there going to be a Sammy signature LTD production model. Is that pretty cool to see other people wanting to have your guitar pretty much?
It's pretty insane, considering that when at the time that I started like getting the ESP customs, that was the time, where you could barely find like a flying V from ESP, Yeah. They were more focused on like the Eclipses and the Vipers and the Horizons and stuff like that. So it's pretty weird that, all these pointy, crazy, extreme looking guitars are starting to make a comeback. I think that's pretty awesome, because I've never really, I've never really been a big Strat guy. I had like one when I was in Acid for a little while, and I didn't really like it. But I've always played like V's, you know. So it's kind of where my heart lies, is within a extreme shape, you know.
Yeah, I feel you on that. There's something about the I mean, I've got Jackson V's and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When you're standing up, the way it sits on your body is just much more comfortable than a Strat or a Les Paul or something like that.
And it looks cool, you know. If you go on stage with a V or something, you look like you mean business. You know what I'm saying?
It's got to play well, but it's got to look cool too.
Exactly. I agree 100%. But yeah, it's pretty crazy that the response to those guitars have been. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. In that shape, it's like a really spiky, like the star shape that they've had with other guitars. But I don't think I've actually seen that exact shape on another ESP. Was that a custom shape that you made?
No, it was actually, we were in Japan with Goatwhore, and there was like the music stores in Japan, especially in Tokyo, are just fucking insane. Like it's like 15-story buildings where it's just guitars of like 3 blocks down the street. So I wandered into one of the stores, and I saw this guitar, this model. It was ESP, and it was that shape, and it was like a production model that was only available in Japan. And essentially it was I think it was called the RS320, but it was the same shape that I'm using, but they had almost like a Dean style headstock on it, but really pointy. And I was like, the body shape's awesome, but I'm not really a big fan of the headstock. And I kept, it just stayed in the back of my mind, the model name of that guitar. I was like, man, if I could find one of those that aren't like fucking $4,000, I'd buy one, because I don't really like the headstock. So when ESP offered to make me a custom, I remembered the model name, and I was like, can you guys still make that shape? And they're like, the Japan custom shop was like, what do you know about this shape? I was like, I saw it when I was in Japan. And they were like, yeah, well, we can make that for you, absolutely. So
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. But you could barely find those, like the standard ESP ones, the RS320s. Like I didn't even know that guitar existed until I saw it in front of me in Japan, and I was just like, that guitar shape that's what I want,
That's sweet. So you were playing the V's for a while, right?
Yes. Yeah, I was playing the NV2s,
Mm-hmm.
and those are
switched to the more star shape over the V.
They're relatively the same, because when I first started playing the ESP stuff, I was using like the NV2s like a lot. And then I got the star shaped one from the custom shop, and I just got spoiled with that one. So I was like, can you make an NV that plays like this one? And they did it. So I have a custom shop NV as well. But I mean, I just like V's,
Yeah.
It's always good to mix it up,
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I got to know, as one lover of horror to another lover of horror, what was your first horror film you saw and your favorite?
Oh, man. What was the first horror movie I've ever seen? Jesus Christ, that's going to be a hard one, man. The Wolfman, the original Wolfman, the black and white one. Like, I saw it when I was a kid on Sundays when I was growing up. On Sundays, used to have like this channel, and all day Sunday, they would start off in the morning until like maybe noon. From 8 o'clock till noon, they would play all these cartoons and stuff. Then from like noon until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it was just horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Every Sunday. So every Sunday, my dad would put it on and just leave it on that channel all day. And it was the Wolfman, the original Wolfman with Lon Chaney, was the first horror movie I've ever seen. And still to this day, the movie still scares the piss out of me. I guess it's because just in the back of my mind, it's some conscious childhood fears there. It's a great fucking horror movie.
Yeah, for sure.
But my favorite horror movie of all time is Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Right now, it's a tie. It's Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, the old Bob Clark movie, and that's the movie that actually made me want to worship the devil. And it's a tie between that and there's an old Russian movie called V. It's like VIY. It's spelled. That's like it's. I just found out about it like last year. I've never seen it before, and this movie is amazing. One of those two are probably my two favorite horror movies. They're tied right now. But
Yeah,
you know,
never even heard of those ones.
yeah, you should definitely check them out. They're old, but they have that creepy old atmosphere to it. You know.
Yeah, it's always great. I think the first I ever saw was I was about 7 years old. It was the movie Pumpkinhead.
Oh yes.
And that's still got to be my favorite. I mean, just the effects, the way the monster looks, just so great.
Yeah, man. I saw that in the theater when it came out, actually.
Yeah, I remember. I think I saw it on VHS something like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just the old creepy swamp atmosphere. Too good.
Absolutely. Yeah, man.
And sort of to wrap things up, anything you can tell us about the future of what Goatwhore is doing? Are you recording? When all this craziness is over, are you planning on touring or anything like that?
Well, we're being that we're not doing anything right now. We have. Well, let me rephrase that. Before all this crap happened, we had the new album pretty much written, like ready to go. So we still have all those songs. So what we're doing right now is that we're utilizing this time to continue to write more songs. You know, so I mean, we might come up with something within the next month or two that might be a new song that could be possibly replace one of the songs that we had in the old list that we were planning on putting on the new record. So we're just focusing on writing as much as we possibly can right now. And when this crap is over with, we are getting our asses in the studio as soon as possible. And then after that, I'm going to let the demons fly free and play a show, hopefully.
Awesome. Do you see it as kind of a blessing in disguise that this happened where you have all this time where you sort of need to practice and spend more time on writing?
Absolutely. Yes. Definitely utilizing the time wisely, instead of just, getting, sidetracked by different stuff. You're trapped in your house with your guitar.
Nothing else to do.
With better things that's there to do,
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk with me.
Yeah, man.
Great.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man.
What was that?
I said, thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, of course. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.